People are very thirsty to feel seen, to know that someone's thinking of them, worried about them, wants them to be great in any capacity. People, I think we all do that. I love it. Like when we talk about our why, my why is to help people feel seen. That's it.
Welcome to Confessions of a Vistage Chair. I'm your host, Ryan Hogan. We have real, behind-the-scenes conversations with Vistage Chairs who share honest stories and practical insights on leadership growth, peer advisory groups, and what actually happens in Vistage meetings. Let's pull back the curtain. Angelo, this is number one. Thank you so much for coming on and being gracious enough to share your story. And like on that note, like this is an incredible story. So this is going to be a lot of fun.
Appreciate it. You know, it's grateful to have you say that. And at the same time, for me, it's just my life. So it's awesome too, you know?
And so let's start with, because like one of the things here is 17-year-old entrepreneurship. Like, was this something you were born with growing up? Were you like, I'm going to be an entrepreneur and I'm going to figure out the path? Or did you stumble into it? How did that happen?
Yeah. So my dad, when I started kindergarten, my father went to federal prison for 11 years. He was gone when I started kindergarten, came home to take me for a license. And you could say that I grew up thinking authority was the worst thing in the world. You know, some people become entrepreneurs because they have these fabulous ideas and they want to change the world. I just don't like it when people tell me what to do.
Yeah, I love it. And so I feel you on that. It's weird that I've been in the military so long because it's the same way for me. I just don't like, I want to do what I want to do and don't tell me otherwise.
I was a rebellious juvenile delinquent. You know, when people told me what to do, the first thing I would do was just do the exact opposite just for fun, you know?
Yeah. Let's compare GPAs. Well, do you remember what your GPA was your senior year?
You know, something really funny is I had really good grades.
Are you serious?
Serious. I had really good grades. I think I graduated with like a 3.5 GPA, but I was suspended 3 times that year. And it was like enigma. My poor mother couldn't even deal with it. The fact that her son was telling teachers to go F off, and then I would get honor roll, and it would be like the weirdest thing. No one knew what to do with me. They just wanted me to get out of school.
Wow. So what is that? Were you a good studier? Are you just like, can you just read a book and pick up on things? Like, how were you able to get suspended and then also end hate authority and then also do very well in high school?
Yeah. You know, there was some classes that I really liked, and those classes I did all the work and excelled in. And I'll be really transparent with you. I also cheated a little bit, you know, and I got by, you know, like the classes that didn't do it for me, I would figure out how to get the teacher's answers for the test on that one. And the classes that I enjoyed studying. And it just so happens the ones that I cheated in were the ones I had the bad behavior in. So it just correlated with that, you know, the real teachers that I enjoyed and took time to get to know me. And there was dialogue. Like, that's my thing. I learn by dialogue and not lecture. And when you lecture, I'm just like, oh, kill me now. Like sitting up there just telling me what to do. And the teachers that had a lot of dialogue, I respected them. I would never cheat because I didn't want to disrespect them.
Interesting.
It's really the truth. It's funny to say that out loud now, but yeah, that's the truth.
Is there somebody like early on in life that like pulled you aside, mentored you, like did those sorts of things that you attribute kind of a lot of where you're at today because of that?
For sure. So 12 years old, my father was very, very big on me making money and helping my mother. And so made me get my first job at 10 years old. And then at 12 years old, he made me get another job. And I called this restaurant that just opened up in my neighborhood every day for 2 weeks. And they kept telling me no, they wouldn't give me a job. And then one day I just walked in there and introduced myself and said, hey, I'm the kid that's calling you. I know you probably shouldn't give me a job, but I'll do a good job if you give it to me. And this man gave me a job, and I was working in the back of a restaurant, peeling potatoes and onions and all of that stuff and mopping floors. And he found out through just people talking to me that my dad was away. And one day, his name is Danny, and he pulled me in the back in his office and he goes, come here, I want to talk to you. And I thought, oh gosh, I'm in trouble. And he asked me if my father was in prison. And I said, yeah. And he looked at me and he goes, well, my dad was in prison when I was younger. And he reached in his pocket and he paid me extra money. And he said, you know, I didn't know you were taking care of your family. Here's some extra money just between us. And he really mentored me and was like a father figure to me. I mean, everything about it, more than my father, because he wasn't there.
Wow. Job at 10 years old, holding it down. When did you launch your first company?
Yeah. So my first business, Danny helped me get started. It was a pizza
Love it.
business. And I was 17 and here I am owning this pizza place. And I thought you could just yell at everybody and everyone was going to listen to you because they were just
Because you're
scared of
paying them,
you.
right?
Yeah. Because
You're
I'm
paying
paying
them.
you. Yeah. I'm paying you and I could do whatever I want to because I'm paying you. And granted, this was me at 17 years old. And I thought that was how the world works. And about a year and a half later, the business folded, but it was my first shot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I didn't think of it. I didn't go home and this was a massive failure. I never really thought of it that way, but yeah, we gave it a go. And a year and a half later, we just weren't making any money and we had to fold up shop. And that was the truth.
Walk me through that. Was it an existing business and you went in and took it over or bought it, or were you like, nope, we're going to go hang our shingle over at this place that's got a lease? It's maybe Danny's property. Like how does a 17-year-old like stumble into selling pizzas?
Yeah. So you almost walked me through it. So Danny's brother owned the building that his restaurant was in, and there was an extra storefront there, and they couldn't rent it. And one day they were like, "Man, we should do a pizza place here. Ange, do you want to open a pizza place? This is what it'll cost, and you could come in and do this." And I was like, "Yeah, of course." I just like no second thought about it, and that was it. And I just knew the one thing I had going for me is that I knew that I could work really hard. And I had no problem working long hours or putting in time. Like even then when I was in high school, like as soon as I left high school, I just worked the whole evening. I was never like a sport athlete or anything like that. I just worked as much as I possibly could. I was working 35, 40 hours a week while in high school.
Wow. Holy crap. Give me some lessons learned from that. So I share in an experience of having a company, ran it for a year and a half, 2 years. Mine was probably 10 years after you. So I feel like for you to get some of that exposure very early on in this is like it becomes like a competitive advantage because now you're like, you already know sort of, or like what doesn't work. And I think for me, at least, that's been a big part of entrepreneurship is like learning as fast as possible based upon failure.
Yep.
What were some of your kind of takeaways, lessons learned from folding up the pizza shop?
Yeah. So first, this management style was not a good management style. People quit and like, people were always like leaving and we were always trying to find people and that. And so, I didn't learn that lesson till later that people aren't like you. I thought everyone just had the same upbringing, same way, same culture, same way of doing things. And so that was really big for me. The other thing that I didn't do a good job of back then, looking back at it now, is I really didn't know my numbers. I just, I didn't understand all the costs of things. I wasn't very diligent with that stuff. I was just doing it and hoping for the best. I wasn't a very, I wasn't very astute entrepreneur at that time, but I learned, that I had to start doing that later. So that was the cost of learning that lesson. Big deal.
Yeah. Wait, if you could go back, would you have sold the pizzas for more money? Is that like, or would you have found ways to reduce the costs?
I would have understand my costs better. I would have probably raised the prices a little bit more if I really understood it. Like even $1 more back in the 90s, that would have been enough for me, and definitely that. But the biggest thing was the pain with all the turnover, because when they're gone, like if somebody didn't want to come, and like when you treat people poorly, they don't really quit on good terms.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It's like you show up there on a Friday night, you're in a rush, and someone's just like, "Yeah, F you, I'm out of here," and you're like, "Oh, kill me now." Like it was more of those kind of fires, but it was an experience.
Interesting. So what was after the pizza? So you're dusting yourself off after that. You're like, hey, maybe I need to be a better leader, more supportive of my people, and I should understand the numbers. Like what was after the pizza shop?
Oh gosh, I'm going to tell you this. I don't tell a lot of people this, Ryan, but I feel like I could trust you with this and everyone that's watching this. So right after that experience, there was the poker boom. Okay, so now there's this boom of poker, and me and a good friend of mine, we loved to play poker, and we would set up poker games in his garage. And one day we looked at this and we were like, the house always wins. Why aren't we the house?
Yep.
So we started some a game with a bunch of players in his garage, and then it got like big enough where there was enough money where it shouldn't be in someone's garage. And so we had somebody that we knew that owned a local cafe, and we would run games. And like, I know this sounds like, a little bit thuggish or whatever. But one, granted, I told you the story of my father, so this wasn't that crazy. But we ran a poker game for probably 2.5 years, and we learned a lot of great things about doing it. And, as a 19, 20, 21-year-old kid, we were making each $1,500, $1,600 a week cash. Yep. And, at that time, that's enough to buy shots of Patron and throw napkins in the air and make out with girls. I mean, that was what we wanted to do at that time. I'm not saying it's the right thing, but like for us to make that kind of money at that time, and that was there. So I ran a poker game for a number of years. And just like every poker game, it usually dries out when everyone gets busted and you can't loan any more money and stuff like that. But we learned, we learned a lot of great stuff. We had a lot of good fun doing it. And that's what I did for a few years after that.
I love it. Like I love this. What was like one or two things that you learned through that business? So when you think about the first one, it was maybe some leadership, maybe some management, and know your numbers. Sounds like you knew your numbers for the second business. What were some takeaways coming out of that one?
Yeah, that's where I really learned about having the right customers. Because believe it or not, to have a good poker game, if anyone wants to run one, but you need two things. You need people that are really good at poker, and you need degenerate gamblers with deep pockets. Yeah. Because they'll keep coming back, and the sharks will take their money, and you keep the circle just keeps going. You need a guy, I'm not going to say what they usually do for a living, but you need a guy who go in their trunk and grab a stack of money and walk back in and keep going. And that's what makes these things work. And so just understanding with that, but also too, what we did really well is we had a real sense of hospitality. Like we would have food, and like, I'm Italian by culture. We would feed everybody. We figured out your favorite drink. We'd make sure you never not had a glass with it. Like we really made sure that it was a joyful experience to be there. We had movies on that you like. People, we had it so decked out. There was in the back room, there was a shower and everything. You could take a shower and freshen up because games would run 2 days. You know what I mean? People would be just doing it. And so, yeah, we really learned a lot of good hospitality, how to really take care of people, because that's what that really is.
Interesting. Okay. I'm seeing the picture now at this point. Like this is a really interesting journey with a ton of lessons learned. So what happened after it sounds like maybe the well dried up over there?
Oh gosh, this is the funniest story. I haven't told all these stories. All right, so then the poker game goes bust. We're done with the poker game. And I had a buddy of mine whose father started another pizza restaurant, and they had like really big slices of pizza. And one day we're hanging out, and the pizza restaurant is closing up, and there's a bunch of extra slices. And me and him are sitting there, and I go, hey, listen, why don't we throw these in a pizza truck, drive down to the city, we'll try to sell them, and we'll hit on some girls at a local bar. And he's like, yeah, great idea. And so we drive down there, and we wind up pulling up in front of this bar, and we sell all this pizza. And I looked at him and I go, dude, we might have something here. and we just, like, it was nothing. Like, it was just two friends having fun. And then all of a sudden, fast forward 2.5 years later, we had 2 trucks, 4 employees. I had 2 stops, 2 perfect stops in the city at very different places. And we had a full-blown business. It was running Wednesday through Sunday. And I did that through my mid-20s, and it was a very fun business. And when it was warm out, I would go sell pizza and hang out at these bars and just chat with people. My friends would be there drinking, and it would be just like socializing, but I'd get paid. And, that's where I really learned that business is all about taking care of people. That's like, for me, Ryan, like relationships and taking care of people is the most important thing in business, I think, in life for that matter. But for me, like when I wanted to get these stops, we didn't have permits or anything. So I would I walked into the police district of Chicago, one of the districts, and walked in there and said, hi, my name is Angelo. I'm going to be selling pizza down the street. Please send a message out to anybody that's working at any time that they could come and get free pizza on me. And the cops would let me park in like the most ridiculous streets and block.
You're like blocking the whole road. They're just it's Angelo.
right on the corner. Like I would, like on a corner spot, I would park where it rounded off, just so every walking direction you would walk past me. I made friends with all the bouncers and the valets. They would call me up and go, Angelo, we're having a big party tonight. Send more, all of this kind of stuff. And I just took care of all these people, fed them. They all became my friends and everything like that. And it was a great, another all cash, just fun, wonderful business. I'd wake up on the morning on a Sunday morning. I'd go in the glove compartment of my car, and there would just be an envelope of cash, and then I'd count it and get it all sorted and move on to the next day.
That is wild. And what's interesting is it sounds like, and we'll call it the third chapter. Like, it sounds like this third chapter, you're really starting to like apply all the principles that you had learned before, which is like, know your numbers, know your clientele, know where they're at, where they're hanging out.
Yeah.
You said this thing of like, I don't know whether it's the epiphany or the light bulb, but like, it was all about taking care of people. And when you think about taking care of people, there's a lot of different ways to kind of take that. But what does taking care of people mean to you, especially as it relates to your people, the ones that are servicing your clients and your customers?
Yeah, for sure. So, are you familiar with the 5 love languages?
A little bit. It's been a minute.
No problem. 5 love languages: acts of service, gifts, words of affirmation, physical touch, and quality time. My dominating love language is acts of service. An act of service is seeing somebody and thinking of somebody when they're not in front of you. It's like consideration as an action. And it just so happens that in business and any business that I've been in, being very considerate of people are very thirsty to feel seen, to know that someone's thinking of them, worried about them, wants them to be great in any capacity. People, I think we all do that. I love it. Like when we talk about our why, my why is to help people feel seen. That's it. I just want people to feel seen as they wish to be seen. And I think if everybody felt that way, this world would be a better place.
That's for sure. When you're thinking about leadership in kind of today's environment and making sure that people feel seen, like what are some tactics that either you would use or you see your members or your clients using where like they're exhibiting that behavior, that trait?
Yeah. So like here, I'll give you one of the hacks I use. When you start in my Vistage group, I send out a personal preferences form. And every time it's your birthday, you get things that you really like. And if I find out that you want to go do something, go something you want to learn or something you want to go do, I want to play pickleball more. Well, my 1-to-1 is we're going to play pickleball.
Yeah.
Like, I just try to really connect with people on that level. Like, cause like I said, I think we're all so capable of achieving great things. We just don't believe that we are. And when we feel seen, the main thing that we don't feel is fear. And that's my game in a few minutes. Like that to me is why I'm here and what I'm here to provide. And I think, the CEOs that come in my group, when they feel seen, they're better leaders, they're better husbands, they're better wives, they're just better people to be around. Their energy is right. And to me, when your energy is right, you do the right things.
I love it. Are you good at pickleball? Just a
terrible,
side note.
terrible. But I give it a go. I'll give it a college try. No problem. I'm a big sweaty dude too. It's hard to see in this thing, but I'm a 200-pound looking gorilla. I'm 5'9". I'm 200 pounds. It's not a pickleball physique. I would say it's good for looking at my muscles, but pickleball, I don't know. You know what I mean? I'm not diving anywhere too much and all that stuff.
That's hilarious. What and speaking of was the journey into the fitness industry, because that's where entrepreneurship has taken a part of your journey. Like, was that right after the pizza shops?
Yeah. So 21, I'm hit by a landscaping truck off a motorcycle. I have 10 screws and a plate and new skin all in my foot. Still have it. I was in the hospital for 2 months, rehab for 5 months. During that time, I gained a lot of weight. I got up to like 300 pounds. That's when I was selling the pizza. And so it's 2008. I'm sitting on a recliner, just not happy with myself. And I watched the movie 300. Remember with Gerard Butler, the movie
Yeah.
300? So I watched that movie and I'm like, dude, how did these guys get in such like agile, athletic shape, not just like big and muscular? And so I'm a big research nerd, right? I start digging in, and they worked out in this gym in Utah and they did this workout called CrossFit. And I was like, dude, what's this CrossFit thing? In 2008, CrossFit was still not known to what it is now. And so I watched this guy do a workout called King Kong. I'll never forget it. His name was Josh Everett. He did a workout called King Kong. He lifted a heavy barbell. He swung on these rings and got above them, did some cleans and kicked up on a wall and did these push-ups that were inverted. Here I am, 300 pounds, all of me. And I go, I'm going to figure out how to do this. And so January 5th, 2009, I did my first CrossFit workout. And 7 months later, I lost 100 pounds. And that's what really got me into fitness. And because that pizza slice business was running itself so well, I had just so much time to learn about health and fitness and nutrition. It just consumed my life.
Huh. How, and this is going to take us down a rabbit hole as well. And I'm just curious, your perspective and your experience. So when you think about, gosh, did you say 100 pounds in 7 months? By the way,
100 pounds, 7 months. I was a whole nother human.
That is wild. When you look at the athletic side of it, the fitness side of it, and some of the other things you had to change, like how much of it was the CrossFit or versus like changing in eating habits or changing in mindset? Like kind of walk me through what that looked like.
My nutrition completely changed. I became just like, I'm from an Italian family. I used to bring my own Tupperware to Sunday dinner. Okay, like perspective, and I was that serious about it at that time, and like of all the things that about that journey that I'm just the most proud of is I haven't gained the weight back. Because so many people lose 100 pounds and then you see the biggest loser and then they're, I lost the weight really fast, but then I also learned an identity of what it's like to be a healthy person. And that took the longest time. That took way longer than the 7 months to like go, oh, I'm not going to go back and just start gorging McDonald's like I used to. Yeah. But that was how that journey went. It was mostly the nutrition. The training was great. But the nutrition was by far the biggest catalyst. I still think it is.
And do you think that like the experiences that you had at CrossFit or that you continue to have at CrossFit, like was a part of that like, well, I just, did this hour workout and like drained every ounce of energy. I mean, killed maybe like, 500 to 700 calories. Like, why would I now go eat a hamburger that is the same amount of calories that just took that effort? Like, was it, I guess, how did you justify, like, did one build on the other, or was it just like completely independent, change the mindset with eating, change the mindset with working out?
In the very early, it was just a change of mindset. But Ryan, I'll tell you the truth. Like this idea of me being a coach, I take very serious. Like this isn't like, oh, I put my working hat on and I'm a coach. I really think that my job as a coach is to model great behaviors. And so at first it was, to look good and all that stuff. But then when so I lost 100 pounds, I was like, man, I was just training people for free. And I was like, oh man, this sounds like fun. Why can't this be a business? And so that's kind of like how my brain goes. If I feel something, I just go and do it. And I just think that that's partially what life is. Have an idea and go create it, because what else did God give us this place for? And so I start training people outside. That gets busier. Then it gets cold in Chicago. I take a racquetball court space and turn that into a training studio. 10 months after that, I opened my first gym in 2,500 square feet. 2 years later, we went into 5,500 square feet. 2 years later, I opened another gym, a nutrition coaching company, an online programming company, and my notoriety just got me into business coaching because people wanted help with their businesses. And then I launched a business coaching company. And like for me, once I started taking on that identity of coach, I just thought that coaching was all about you walking the walk. Like for me to hold people accountable, I have to be doing the things.
Yeah.
Like even when I run my Vistage meetings, like, because I know it's somewhat directed towards that, but like when I run my Vistage meetings, in the very beginning of the meeting, the host of the meeting reads the vision for our group, the core values for our group, and our operating agreements for our group, because I think that that's how great meetings should be run. I'm like just teaching them how to run a great meeting, how I look at it from that perspective. And so much of that is about my identity. It's beyond just like, this is what I'm doing for work. And so just over the years, this idea of doing these things and having, because if I brought any client that ever came to me, if I gave them three things, if I gave them discipline, willpower, and delayed gratification, I bet you they'd be more successful than they are now. And for me, health and fitness is the perfect training place to know if I have those virtues.
Yep. Also, just a quick like foot stomp on the whole reading the vision, the values, and I called it the Constitution. What did you call it?
The vision, but yeah, we have a vision, operating agreements, and core values. But yeah, it's like the Constitution. Yeah.
So there was a captain in the Navy, and every time that he would hold quarters, we would have to recite the Sailor's Creed. And so the times where you're really like reciting the Sailor's Creed is generally through boot camp, and like it's getting drilled into you and you're doing it and you're nervous and all these other things. But I would say very rarely throughout, I've been in the Navy now for the last 24 years, and very rarely has like the Sailor's Creed come up in a normal kind of operating environment. And like without fail, every time we started quarters with this commanding officer, we would all stand at attention and we would recite Sailor's Creed. And you'd see like eyeballs roll and you'd be like, oh gosh. And like, oh, what are we in boot camp again? The unity that unit had, that command had, was unlike any other that I'd ever experienced. So while some people were rolling their eyes, some people were like, why are we doing this? Like, it brought us all closer together. And like, so just to like go back, I love the fact that you just said that, like at the beginning of every meeting, vision, values, operating agreements, let's roll.
Yeah. 100%. Growing up, what did we do? Pledge allegiance. Like we all had something we did to get everybody here and ground us in what's going on.
I'm actually going to take this into, I'm putting this on the issues list. We're going to take this in, like one thing that we do. So we have Friday Fireside. We bring the whole company together every Friday and we go over our core values. And we acknowledge people on the team, because like it's one thing to talk about core values. It's another to have them printed somewhere or like recite them. It's another when you can point to someone's action, behavior, decision, something else, and say like that was an example, because that now creates a picture for people to understand like, okay, like I read it, I comprehend it, but what does it actually look and feel like? That's the extent. I love now opening meetings with vision, because it could help orient people around like, why are we here? What are we doing here? And like, what are those guardrails in which we're going to operate?
Yeah. Cool.
Okay. So you had all these gyms, and oh my gosh, like you had gyms, the gym kept expanding. Then you've got a nutrition concept, then you're like all of these different things. So are you still doing all of those things today? I know about and we'll get into Vistage, but like,
it's totally cool.
What happened?
2016, I got into business coaching, and when I got off the first call, someone asked me to have the call, and I was just like, man, this felt like the first time I trained somebody. And I'm very much into like, you follow your intuition in your heart and you let your mind decide later. I know that that's not always the best path, but it's my path. Okay. Anyways. And so I partnered up with a really famous podcast at the time. And I was like, listen, you guys have an audience and I want to do this. Let's be friends and we'll do this. And we started a business coaching company. There was 400 gyms around the world, and we just like, we're doing it. And it was absolutely amazing. And around 2019, I started just looking around and just didn't feel like I loved the fitness industry anymore. I felt like CrossFit as a company was kind of losing its feel for what it was, and it just didn't have like what I really enjoyed. And then also too, from years of just understanding fitness, I started realizing like people shouldn't do CrossFit every day. Maybe you should just go do some yoga one day and not just beat yourself to shit. Like I just wasn't like gung ho about it, like I was. And, for that period before I realized this, I tried to like change how I ran my gym, and my members were pissed. And I said to myself, listen, they obviously like this. Why am I going to tell them that they're wrong? let me just sell this thing and let me bow out of all this stuff. Let me just be done. And so 2019, I started getting everything ready to sell. And one at a time, I started selling everything. And I sold the last gym 3 weeks before lockdown. It wound up being a blessing anyway. We didn't even know what it was at the time, but like I wound up selling it all right before lockdown. And then I just kept my business coaching practice.
All right, quick break, friends. Do you find it impossible to hire and retain top sales talent? Or worse, are you paying insane recruiter fees who are all using outdated hiring processes? Yeah, I was too. At Hunt to Killer, we were spending hundreds of thousands on recruiter agency fees. And after I sold that company in 2025, I started Talent Harbor. And the whole vision here was to make sales recruiting accessible to small and medium-sized businesses, because the organizations that can hire and retain world-class people are the ones that ultimately win. Most organizations rely on things like ZipRecruiter or LinkedIn, and they get hundreds, if not thousands, of resumes. But we find that the best salespeople are already perfectly placed somewhere else. And that's why our approach is to go after them. And we do that through a business model called recruiting as a service. We do not charge commissions. We do not have success fees. We don't have contracts. We don't have long-term engagements. And we become an extension of your team as expert sales recruiters. If you're tired of the same old recruiters and want to actually grow your sales team, check us out at talentharbor.com. That's Talent Harbor, TALENTHARBOR.com. Let's get your next sales superstar hired. You kept the business coaching practice and you just sit back in Chicago and start that, or where did you move geographically at this point?
Oh, well, you know this, so I'm going to give it to you. But like, so I came home and I had a 9-month-old son and a new young, couple years married. And I just looked at my wife and always wanted to live in San Clemente in California, in Orange County, my favorite town in the world. And, I just looked at it like now was the opportunity to do it. If we're going to do this, if we want this chapter in our lives, we need to do it now. And my wife looked at me and she goes, "Are you sure?" I go, "Yep, let's set a date right now. This is the day we're leaving no matter what. I don't care what we need to do." And so I packed up my family, drove across the country, and I moved to San Clemente and lived 10 minutes from the beach. And it was absolutely amazing. And so when I got there, I got connected with some real sharp business people. Met a guy named First, I met a guy that ran, two guys that ran a company called Vive Organic. It was later acquired, and they introduced me to their VC. His name was Mark Rampolla, who founded Zico and later sold it to Coca-Cola and runs a wonderful venture capital firm. And like just started mingling with higher levels of business, higher business. Before then, it was only like $10 million for me or less. And so now I'm learning all this other skills of business and how to structure a bigger company and do all these sort of things. And I'm a big learner, I'm a big sponge. And that's like the one thing is like, I know deep down, all I need to do is get in the room and the rest of it will take care of itself. I'll figure everything else out. And so I got to work with these guys and learn all this amazing stuff. And still some of them are my clients now. Amazing. I got to go to one of their weddings last year. And around 2022, I looked at my wife and just we loved the California vibe. We loved being there, but I'm a big people person. I love being around people. At 42 years old, I'm not afraid to say it. Like, I'm a man that needs to know that he has friends around him to feel safe. Mm-hmm. I just need to know that. I just need to know I could pick up the phone and someone will be here in 10 minutes and that's good for me. And so we came back in 22. And when I came back in June of 22, I had a friend of mine who, the one that I started selling pizza slices for, he took over his dad's business. And during COVID, they went from 3 to like 15 million bucks in like 2.5 years. They exploded. They were selling pizza through the drive-through 24 hours a day. It was incredible. Okay? Wow. So I come back and he says, "Ange, I want you to help me structure this company, put in structures and systems and all this stuff. Just help me, coach me on it." And we got into the company and I looked around and there was like no leadership team. There was nothing. I couldn't implement this if I wanted to. And so I said, "Listen, I'll step in and help you. This is like 30 years, dear friend, like no problem." So I step in to help him. And I just sat there for about 90 days and tried to watch everything that was going on. And I realized that I never fixed a company. I've only started them. I never like changed people's minds. I've only made people's minds. And so that's what led me to Vistage. I joined Vistage in 2023. I'm still a member in a CE group in Vistage. And so when I joined that group, we were fixing that company. It took me about 12 to 14 months to like level things out and get things going. And then when I was done with that, I just picked up my coaching practice. I have a business operating system practice with 90 and Boss Up that I have that has been a wonderful practice. I do about 40 or 50 sessions a year. It's a wonderful practice. And about last year, I was at dinner with my chair, Dave Galowich, my Buddha, who I love so much. Shout out to Dave Galowich. That's what I call him. He's my Buddha. He's amazing. And so we're having dinner. And he looks at me and he goes, I think you'd be a great Vistage chair. And I paused for a second and I looked at him and I said, Dave, aren't I too young to be a Vistage chair? Because when I think of a Vistage chair, most times, you think of someone a little more my senior, and nothing wrong with that. And he goes, no, I think you'd be really great at it. And so I started shadowing his small business group. I would just sit in there, just sit in his meetings, learn how it works, and then slowly oh, Ange, come up here now, process this issue. And I just started after a few months, I was like, I think I like this. I think I could dig this because I love the sense of community. And first of all, for me, I love being in Vistage. I still pay my dues. I still go to my CE meeting. Even though I run a group, I love it. I just think that, I have friends in my life, Ryan, from when I was 10 till I was 20. I have friends from 20 to 30. I have friends from 30 to 40. And all my 40-year-old friends are my Vistage friends.
Yeah.
And I just want to go there and see my buddies. That's the truth. It's like going to a fun day in school with all your buddies are there. And so after about a few months, I was like, you know what, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do it. And so I signed up for Chair Academy, September 2025, went there. And then I launched my group in December of 25. So I was very grateful. I had a lot of experience. So I had a really fast start. And now I run a wonderful CE group with 10 amazing people. We have named our group. The name of our group is the Lighthouse. We have I really believe that the lighthouse is one of the most beautiful symbols for how we wish to show up in this world, just steady, consistent, and unwavering. And we all agreed that should be the name of our group.
Huh. There's so much to unpack in all of that. All right. So we'll start with, Vistage also changed my life. So my first company bankrupted, and hired all the wrong people and didn't have any systems processes, couldn't even spell P&L. So all of the normal things with a first time ish entrepreneur. And so when my second company started to take off, I had made myself a promise of I'm going to find people that have been there, done that. Had a buddy and he was like, have you ever heard of Vistage? I'm in a Vistage group. If do you know Ed Robinson by chance?
Oh my God, the OG dude. He's a saint, that man. Oh my gosh, he is. He's angelic. He really is. He's if I had to pick a name for him, I call Buddha, he'd be like the angelic chair.
Angelic chair. I love it. Ed Robinson was my first chair. This was back in 2016, 2017. And it changed my life. The group changed my life. Ed changed my life. And then I wound up going to Tom Leonard's group out of Seattle because we moved. And then now I'm in Gary Brentglass's group out here in LA. But just long-winded, I shared in kind of that journey that you spoke about of finding your tribe, people that are living it day in and day out. They're running into the same issues, maybe not the same exact, or maybe there's an extra zero or one less zero, but at the end of the day, you're learning and growing together. There's no replacement for that. I'm trying to figure out how to bring us, because I do want to. You just went over this 2 years in San Clemente, and there was a lot of stuff that happened there. You had exposure. What did that was this your, not pause, but you talked about being a lifelong learner. What did this, it exposed you, it sounds like, the things that you had not seen or experienced before, where you were kind of 10 million, sub $10 million companies. You're holy crap, there's a whole other world, same skill sets, same range of motions, just different level. Yeah. What did that do for you?
It allowed me to shed my fitness, that I was only a fitness gym owner identity, on a deep level, just this idea that this is who I was. When I was selling my gyms, everyone told me that I was a fool.
Hmm.
That what are you doing this? You're making money. You're about to have you're starting a family. And I just knew that that wasn't me anymore. And even though I had to break up with a girlfriend that I really loved, the fitness industry, I had to break up with it. And then when I came out there, it just allowed me to recreate an identity and add on to the one that I already had, just to elevate what I really was and just learn at a different level. And that's really what I looked at this time as California was. It was the ability to really shift from what I thought was my ceiling to such a bigger ceiling and an identity, and shed an identity that wasn't serving me anymore.
Interesting. Interesting. And this is what you brought back to Chicago.
Yeah.
Interesting. And then you went and did the turnaround, became a Vistage. Okay. Well, let's go into this, because like what's interesting when you talked about business coaching, I'll start with a quick question. When you talk about the business coaching kind of initially, was this also CrossFit gym owners is like kind of where you focused your initial coaching?
In the very beginning, it was CrossFit gyms. Yeah.
Okay. So, and the key point there is like you are respected in that industry. You can talk about, or you already spoke about, like how fast your gym was growing. So, people from around the world that had their own gyms were looking at what you were doing and saying, I want that recipe. I want that secret. You started helping them. Like, what was that secret? Like when you talk about a gym that was growing by thousands of square feet every year or two, like what was the secret ingredient? What was the magic sauce?
In 2014, we grew 25%, and I say that uh, at that time I thought 25% was absolute garbage.
Hmm.
Okay, so I came off incredible years. I think we grew 300% in 2 years, like 83 one year, 250 the next year. And then 2014 came around and we grew 25%. And I was extremely disappointed. Okay, I didn't understand that that was actually very good. I thought that was very terrible. And I tried to do anything I could to figure it out. I tried to change my marketing. I tried to change my sales. I tried to change my operations. And the biggest fear that I have when I have a problem is when I don't know what the problem is.
Hmm.
And when I have fear, I acted out with anger and rage and resentment. I am a full owner of where I am when I'm scared. Okay.
Yeah.
And so what I did is I would ridicule my employees a little bit. I'd watch them a little too hard. I would blame them for not growing as fast. Then I would blame my customers and my clients because they weren't referring to us as much, and like all these things. And then what I really did is I started looking at myself. I started trying to find any book that I could read to figure this out. And I don't know how exactly I came about it, but I read Emotional Intelligence 2.0. And I realized that I had no self-awareness, and I had even worse self-management. And maybe that was the problem. And once I started working on myself and managing myself, that's when all the other businesses took flight in those other years, the nutrition, the other gym, and like everything really changed because I understood that who I really was and how to not react and start responding to people, and really how to see people even if they were different from me. And that led me to really believe, and this gets back to your original question, I really believe that business is just one great self-actualization tool, and it reflects you and your energetic state and your entire world, just like this whole thing really does. And so for me, with my coaching, when people came to me, if they were erratic, if they were all over the place, the first thing we started doing was regulating your nervous system. I didn't even care what your business was like.
Hmm.
I need you to see this thing with clear eyes. I need you to see this thing without being in a survival state, because I need you to start seeing it for what it could be and not just trying to survive and make choices like that. And that was for me. Once I started realizing that on myself, I started helping other gym owners with like that in the CrossFit business, and they were getting results. I realized that this is just what everybody really needs. And I'm just going to package it with all the business talk, but in reality, this is what we're doing. I call it putting the cheese whiz on the vegetables so you'll eat it.
Well, it's a very Philly thing. I feel like not a it's okay. When you started having these reflection moments and this natural state of like self-awareness that started coming, did you start showing up differently for your people? Like what do you think it was about some of these discoveries where like the numbers, it sounds like the numbers just took care of themselves. Like you had hyper growth and then you still had a really good growth year, but you were pissed off about that year. You went through some things and then you found it and now you're back on growth. Like I understand the like what you discovered about yourself. How did that show up and then unlock the other side?
If I could say it in the most concise way, the one greatest thing that I learned is that I'm only in control of myself
Hmm.
and my reactions. And trying to control or manipulate other people was the problem, trying to force things. And in reality, I'm only in control of me and how I could see things, and stop seeing everything as either black and white, and really learn that life is a lot more gray than we give it credit for. And being flexible is a bigger superpower than being controlling.
Interesting. I love that. And when you see someone with similar issues, because it sounds like you got into this with once you started coaching and kind of unlocking these other businesses, you talked about this idea of like one of the things that, like, if you see someone can't regulate themselves, like you'll time out, ignore everything else, and like you'll just focus on that. What are I know some folks like that, and I'm probably in that bucket as well. Like, what are some of your like tips and tricks for like, hey, like we got to figure out how to bring some of this other stuff in before we can correct or before we fix the business?
Yeah, first is like, I'll do a ruck with you for our one-to-one. We'll go for a ruck. We'll go for a sauna. I will down regulate with you. Like, we will just do it together so it doesn't feel weird or awkward to you. You know, hey, let's try something different today. Let's open up this meeting with some Wim Hof breathing exercises. You know, like, I just, sometimes it's, hey, let's just go stretch. Let's just go mobilize, lay on the floor with some foam rollers and get your body to decompress. I bet you won't be so tense anymore. You know, I just start recommending it to people. And then I got to tell you, I think anybody that's wound tight, like a guy like me, once you start appreciating those things, they feel so good. You know, it's like when you're a little boy and a little girl and someone rubs your head before you fall asleep. That's what those things really feel like. You just feel so much better, and just, oh, this is what you're doing there. Talk to me about how your sleep is. Okay, let's just think about what we could do to have better sleep. And I kind of just slip those things in there, ask them to hey, have you ever realized you might be talking a little too fast? What if you took a breath in between every sentence? And like, just little things to help people just regulate. Because like I said, I think people are so smart and they don't access how smart they can be because they are so rushing and so reactive.
Mm-hmm. That's me. What about like, is it this notion of like, is it caring less? Like, when did you stop caring about that 25% and 300% and then magically the growth started? Is it caring in different ways? Like, what, or maybe it has nothing to do with care, but like, because I get back to like, it did work. It worked for a reason. Like, if it didn't work,
Yeah.
would you still be in that like constant state of fear, or is that just how this all works together?
I believe that you have to, once you change, the results will come with your change. And it just is that's my favorite thing about business, Ryan. It's like, if you are changing as a human being, your business reflects it really quick. Okay. Like, I'm married. I've been married 9 years. If my wife and I are on the rocks, it's going to take 6 to 8 months for me to get that kick back going in there, right? You could change your business this month and it could be a completely different business June 1st.
Yeah.
Like, if you start making those changes. And so to me, the business is just more so the signal, yes or no, if it's working that way. And for me, when I was able to like loosen up, the thing that I did is I still cared about the numbers, but I didn't make them mean something that they didn't have to mean anymore. I didn't make them mean that I was a good boy or good girl or worthy because the numbers were up. And once I didn't have attachment, I still paid attention to them, but I lost attachment to like my self-worth to that number or whatever that said that week, or if we retained this many members, and I didn't make it about me and let the business be a business and let me just be a human being. And I'm just playing a game.
I love what you just said right there. Like this, like attachment, detach from the numbers. Stop making that like a personal scoreboard of sorts. Like, How did you do that? Did you just become comfortable? Like, did you focus in other areas? Was it about the self-care and deregulating and like the things that
Yeah.
you were doing on the side were how do you detach those things from how you feel or look at yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I still have, I would argue to say that my practice is even more crazy now, or more disciplined now to stay regulated. I think you have to do this all the time in this world of unregulated cell phones or anything like that. Like I am crazy about the first 2 hours of my morning. I still am. I work out, I meditate, I read. Sometimes I'll journal, and I just ground myself into the person that I really want to be. I have a vision for who I'm trying to, who I'm stepping, not trying to, who I am stepping into. And like really the person that I'm embodying as a man, as a coach, as a husband, as a father. And I'm just constantly grounding myself into this. I'm constantly re committing to this thing. I think it's not you just do it one time and you're good. And like I just started developing more of these practices in my life, more of these rituals in my life. I started enjoying not being so serious all the time and not taking myself so serious all the time, and learning that it was fun to go play and just not keep score and just relax. And then I would find that when I went back to work, I had more intensity in a beautiful way. It was more focused. And, as far as like the goals and stuff for me, I love writing goals. I love making goals, but I think also sometimes they could be just a great distraction when you should just be focused on doing the absolute best you can with what's in front of you right now, and maybe the rest will take care of itself.
We just had a quarterly pulse for one of the core function areas in the business. So we're still a couple of years in. So Alana and I are still sitting in a couple of the core function seats. And we just had this conversation around goals. And I'm still reflecting if like I answered this correctly. Um, which is like we were trying to set an annual goal. So it's a new team. We just started a fourth core function area of the business. And someone on the team was like, hey, do we really need to set a goal, like a target for this specific thing? And my answer was, well, if we don't have a target, then we're just going to accept that whatever we do or whatever we bring to the table, or if we set a big target, like it'll change our behaviors and our decisions. And what I kind of hear you saying is like, well, if everybody's always like, challenging themselves, bringing the best of themselves and working on the right problems, then like the goals kind of take care of themselves.
Yeah, it's not an easy way to do it, because obviously you're not sure if everyone is, you might need that for someone to really change their behavior. But there's a guy named Jason Fried. He owns 39 Signals. He's
Mhm.
originally from Chicago, but like he even says, he goes, we don't, we don't set goals. We just do it, and like that's his culture. And like, I do. I think goals are necessary. They're really great to aim for, but also too, sometimes I think God has better plans than your goals anyway.
Yep.
Sorry. Like there's moments where I think we all have to admit when we set goals, we're all playing a little bit of narcissist. We're playing God. And in reality, we're just here to enjoy this thing. We're not here to say how it's supposed to be.
Hmm. Do you still have fitness goals, or have you dropped a I saw that.
Fuck yeah, I do.
Uh,
I do.
okay.
I have here. I'll be honest with you. I have one fitness goal. I picked jujitsu back up, but I don't have any goal with it. I just go and have fun. But I have a fitness goal that and maybe this will really circle back to our conversation. I have one fitness goal, and it helps create the exact behaviors that I want in my life right now. I have a certain body fat goal that I want to be at all year round.
Yeah.
I don't care how much muscle I have. I don't care how much weights I lift. I care, like right now for me, is to be at a certain body fat that feels healthy. And also too, I like having abs. Call me a vain guy. I don't care. Grew up with all tits my whole life. Now I want abs. Big deal, And so
Yeah.
I just have a body fat goal, and that's what keeps me where I need to be, and just in check with that. And so to me, like, maybe rethinking this out loud, goals to drive behaviors, goals to maybe set boundaries, but not goals to define your self-worth.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I'll leave us with this one question, and then maybe jump into some of the amazing success that you've had in the Vistage ecosystem as well.
Sure.
For You talked about this place of like operating in fear, and like what that did to you, and like how you showed up when you were operating in that state of fear. Like how do you avoid that now? Based upon the things that that you do when you're operating in fear, how do you kind of stay out of that fear mode?
Yeah, great question. I'm really aware of the behavior that looks like fear. And I think we all have to be honest. We're either fighters, flighters, or freezers. And I am a fighter. I just get big and think that that's going to take care of the fear. Like anytime I'm feeling like I need to control things or force things, I know that I'm just really scared. And I believe that fear only exists when you're alone. And so now I'm at a place where I have wonderful friends in my life that are there to support me, that I ask for help. I couldn't ask for help for a long time, and like just admitting that I don't know something and like all of that ego driven stuff. And the fact that I could just call up somebody now and no big deal, that I don't have shame anymore. That was probably the root of it. Now that I say it, shame, like anything to not prop me up in a certain way. And once I was able to deal with my own shame, I could regulate myself fairly well. There's moments where I get a little out of control and spinning and all that stuff. And, it's when I call my Buddha or any of my homies that I need help with. And, that's really what I believe. When you have friends, you don't have problems.
All right. I could keep us down this is like a fascinating conversation. Switching to Vistage just for a second, like you've had success like right out of the gate, and I think that's a lot of things that especially new Vistage chairs are looking for. Like, how'd you come out of the gate so hot? What were some of like the tactics that you used, and how do you think about growth when it comes to kind of growing your group?
Yeah, for sure. So I really believe that Vistage is an experience, and talking about it doesn't sell it and do it justice. And so I finished Chair Academy, and sometimes the people suggest you should go look on LinkedIn and message people on LinkedIn, and there's that cold way of doing business isn't the way I do business. I'm a very warm, jolly guy. I like to just connect with people. And so I left Chair Academy that second week of September, and I said, you know what? I know what I'm going to do is I'm just going to have a meeting, and I'm going to invite some people, and we'll see how it goes. And then in order to hold myself accountable, I set a date for it, and I started a meeting October. I had 5 people show up. We processed, I prepped everybody. We processed one. I knew all I needed was one juicy issue for people to see what this was. And these guys didn't even know what issue processing was, but they were just like in this experience. And I picked through, all 5 of them brought an issue, and I picked the frothiest, juiciest issue. And this man processed this issue in front of everybody and committed to something that he was been holding in his heart for 6 months and just not able to break through. And after that, all 5 of them signed up. And then I said, okay, I'm just going to have another meeting in November. And you could bet all 5 of those guys couldn't wait to see that other guy and see that he did what he had to do. People applauded. They were so proud of him that we got to share in that experience.
Yeah.
And then I had 3 more people come to that meeting. 2 signed up. And then I just had another guy that I was talking to who couldn't make the meeting. Boom. And he signed up. And so like for me, I wanted people to feel that and experience that, like just witnessing someone going through issue processing is an honor. Like to see that person start in their head and then rationalize their fears and rationalize their bullshit and do all that. And then they start asking themselves the deeper questions, the deeper questions, the deeper questions. And then they own that fear and they take responsibility for that fear and they pick the next thing to go do to get through that fear. I mean, it's a beautiful experience. It's divine. It's really divine, and you know it. You've been in a group. It's divine. It's like I'm so grateful to be a part of it. I'm like a junkie for that thing. I love it. I just love seeing somebody go through that path of that, like denial, like almost like anger, acceptance. Like you watch it happen in a 45-minute issue processing, and it just so happens that person is a powerful person, a person of authority and substance. So when they could make that change, the ripple effect of what that person is and does and shows up as is amazing. And so I wanted people to see that and feel that right away. And so that's how I brought the group together.
I've never heard of that. And that is remarkable. Because if you can find the right person to get vulnerable, like vulnerability, at least in my experience, has created this this bond. And like, they say that like bond takes time, so there could be like a dramatic and like some things can accelerate. And I think like sharing vulnerability like will help immediately cement the bond. And that's kind of what you're getting at, is like someone went up and like, metaphorically completely naked in front of everybody, just laying out their issue, everybody else being able to contribute, and then root them on a month later just to figure out like, hey, did you like, what progress did you make, how'd you do? Like, no wonder this group like stuck together, because like you had like, that's magic that you created right out of the gate.
Yeah, I just think it's a ceremony. We got to have that moment. And
Yeah.
so yeah, we did that. And then December was our first meeting, but it was a holiday meeting, so we kind of just had a party. And then in January we had our original 8, and we did a vision. We did a 3-year vision. I'm a big fan of Cameron Herold's Vivid Vision book, and I took them through that exercise, and we created a vision for our group and what this group is going to be, and who I need to be as the chair, and who they are going to be as the members, and like what are their roles and responsibilities, and what does it look like to be a part of this group, and our values. And we set that. And then the thing that I'm a big believer of in my group is, guys, this is their group. This is your group. I'm not here to just be the recruiter of your group. You're here to help me build the group of people that you really want in this room. And so they've been helping me with connecting me with people, selecting people. If I find somebody, I ask them to come in for a half hour, and I let my members meet them and get a feel for what it is. And I know, granted, at the end of the day, I get the final say so, but I really want everyone in my group to feel like it's ownership. We all own this. I just so happen to bring the Post-its every time.
Yep. Yep. I I love that. Um, okay. What do you, last two questions, I promise. Number
I'm grateful. You ask me anything you want, buddy. We'll keep going.
Yeah, we almost just if we would have kept going down that one path, we would have went hours, because this is fascinating, and it's deep, and it's real. What do you look for in members? Like when you're bringing new folks through, are you focused on an industry? Or focused on like, what do you focus on when you're bringing new members into your group?
Yeah. The first thing is you have to be a learner. And the first thing that I try to do to see if you're a learner is I see how you take feedback. If you can't just say thank you and you try to justify yourself or push it off like that, I don't think you're a really good learner. I think you're here to just be right. And I talk about that. Like in our group, when we go to issue processing, and I go, all right, guys, we're going to get to suggestions. What do you say after someone gives you a suggestion? Thank you. Like that to me is like the first thing, is you have to learn just how to receive and not try to justify yourself. And there's a whole thing, psychologically underneath that, like your ego and all that. But a learner is just there to really learn. And then I always ask, what do you think you contribute to the group? You're not here just to take. What can you bring? What do you feel like you could bring to the group? If someone brought an issue up, what would be an issue that you really feel like you could help somebody with? And, for me personally, I am very fascinated with the journey of when a founder has to transition into a CEO for the business to really fly and succeed. And to me, it's when, a business is about a person and a company is about an idea. Mm-hmm. And that transition, that self-actualization journey that's really necessary for someone to become a founder to a CEO that's where I get my kick. So if someone's like that, I really enjoy that, because I love seeing that, because you become this different human being. You become a different way of operating. You really elevate people, and you don't tell people. It's a beautiful journey for me. I think it's the best journey in all of business. After that, I don't know, it's fun, but it's not as fun as that, because that journey, when a founder could start letting go of that need for control, start letting go of their ego, start seeing people and supporting them, and really believing that their job is to not be smarter than their people. Their job is to walk in there and make sure those people are smarter than them. And really, like, to me, that's such a wonderful journey of how you really learn to serve ultimately. And that's what I love.
Do you think that are there founders out there that shouldn't be CEOs? Like they should just stay in founder mode and go found another company instead of leveling up?
Yeah, I've had this discussion with some founders where it's just like, this is a real big change. This is a real identity shift. There's a lot of things underneath this, not things just having to do with business, how you were raised, how you believe the world works. There's layers upon layers of this onion. And it's very courageous work. And it's not for everybody. And it doesn't make you a bad person either. I just want to be really clear with that. If you're a founder, I don't want to say just, if you're a founder and you could build a business and make $1 million a year, and that's how you're going to go, and that's how you want to live, God bless you. But for me, my drug of choice is freedom.
Yeah.
Nothing better.
Yep.
Smoke it, snort it, whatever you got. Give me that freedom, baby. You know what I'm saying? And that to me is what being a CEO is all about, is elevating yourself to only doing what you're really supposed to be doing, to putting yourself in a position where you could leave and take weeks off and that business still working and humming without you. But a founder, that's really difficult.
Yeah.
It's just a difficult way to do business. It's a more difficult way to do it. Yes, you can make a lot of money. Yes, you could do all those things, but good luck shutting off. And for me, it's freedom is why we're doing this, you know?
Yeah, I'm right there with you. All right, last question. Oh, this was a good one. Last question. So someone just listening to this whole thing. They're in your neck of the woods. They're looking for a Vistage group. Maybe they're just looking for a conversation or even better, a business coach. What is the easiest and best way for someone to get a hold of you, Angelo?
Well, LinkedIn is, I don't know how I became a LinkedIn fanboy, but dude, I became a LinkedIn fanboy these last couple of years. And so I'm on LinkedIn very often. I look at LinkedIn as just this incredible universe where I'm having a discussion about the things that I'm doing and what I'm really passionate about. I'm not really active on any other social channels, but like LinkedIn is probably the easiest. And, honestly, Angelo at CiscoAdvisors.com. Send an email. Let's keep it real simple. I'm a very easy dude. I put my phone number out here, but my wife would probably get mad about that. But that's how I am. Just hit me up. We'll get a coffee and we'll chat.
Awesome. Love it. Angelo, thanks for taking an hour to share your experience, your journey, your wisdom. Some really, really good tactical stuff in here as well. So thanks for taking the time.
Honored to be here so much. Thank you so much for making this happen. And shout out to our homie Cam for making this possible. Appreciate you, Ryan. Thank you.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. Shout out to Cam.